Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Stock Durbar with Team William O'Neill India. So it's just a couple of weeks remaining for the year 20, and if you see the last few days have been very data and the Fed's RBI meeting. So the India's inflation data is out, US inflation is out, the RBI meet, the Fed meet, everything is over. If you compare it with the last time when we met. But overall, if you see the picture of inflation in India, so that's quite in the manageable range. What RBI was targeting, वो range में अभी India का inflation आ गया है. And I think the rate hikes, the quantum might be lower or it might even stop because one of the deputy governor already was in favor of not hiking the rate this time. So it was a 5-1 thing. So there are chances that in the upcoming meets, they might not hike the interest rate, or it might be 25 bits or even maybe less. But that's all ifs and buts. Overall, one thing which we noted in the RBI thing was that they are still targeting the crude basket price of $100 per barrel, which is a bit higher compared to the current prices. So maybe they are pricing in something, some geopolitical tensions, or the demand supply scenario, whatever it is. But currently our inflation is well under control, especially अगर आप फ्यूल की साइड देखें तो 80s में जब हम बात कर रहे थे, जब 90 के अराउंड होता था लास्ट मंथ क्रूड, देन वी यूज्ड टू डिस्कस दैट इट शुड रिमेन फॉर अ मंथ बिलो 85 80 लेवल. तो अगर थोड़े टाइम के लिए कंफर्टेबली वहां पे रहता है, देन दैट इज ऑलवेज हेल्पफुल टू आवर इकोनॉमी, आवर CAD, आवर इन्फ्लेशन, एवरीथिंग. प्लस other thing is about the food inflation. So the rainfall was very good. The reservoir levels are good. So crop production hai, that is also normal. So there is no deficiency over there. So food inflation be controlled mein. So overall the scenario is quite good for the India. But one thing, even the RBI governor told that is about the global growth scenario. It's not that decent. The supply chain is still under pressure, and somewhere that might impact our economy as well. So we are not out of the global economy. All the ripple effects has to be felt by our economy as well. Now, if we come to Fed, it's a 50 bips rate hike again, though it was expected. But now I think the expectations are lower. Even the indications of 25 bips are there. But the Fed the chairman clearly indicated that the reduction in balance sheet will continue around 95 billion US dollar per month. So that continues. And what other points important was about the extended period of rate hike requirement. So they might, hike 2-3 times more even after the pivot. And then he was commenting to one of the questions from the journalist that the rates might remain at a elevated level for certain period of time till the time the inflation is coming under the control. So they are very strict about their target of 2%. But overall, if you see the news, the uncertainties were already out. And I think now as we move towards the year end, we are seeing the volume activity is reducing. And so today also, if you see the market action, the fall was sharp, especially in the second half once the 21 DM, this green line was breached. That's a very important support level we have seen over the last 1 year, the 21 DMA level. So Nifty has breached that level, but the volume was below yesterday's session, and I think 15 to 20% below the average volume as well. So we'll not mark considering the lower volume than previous session today as a distribution day. So distribution day is when the loss is 0.2% or volume previous session se higher hai. Accumulation of distribution day always indicates that there is some weakness in the market, and it's one of the sign of a top formation. Market ka top banne ka one of the sign hai, I'm telling. Distribution day ka accumulation. Breaching of key moving averages is a second sign. So 2 distribution day currently, and so one was over here and second was on the last Friday. So 2 distribution days we already have, and Nifty has reached 21 DMA. Now what's important is to reclaim this level as soon as possible. तो 500 525 वाला zone है जहाँ पे 21 DMA है अभी, उसको maybe as early as tomorrow or Monday, तब अगर कल या मंडे के सेशन में रिकवर नहीं होता है, then you might see that Nifty can test the 50 DMA, the 18,000 level. So 18,000, 18,050 का जो level है, यहाँ पे एक बार निफ्टी टेस्ट कर सकता है. So that's what the chart indicates. And if we see the distribution day accumulating during this phase, if the count increases, then we might downgrade the market status from confirm uptrend to uptrend under pressure. But yes, we want to see the 3-4 distribution day plus Nifty below the 21 DMA. Or if we see that the 50 DMA is acting as a good support, we might take some time. But yes, now the focus should be on the 50 DMA holding and the distribution day for the downside, when to book profit and cut losses. On the flip side, if we again reclaim the 21 DMA on a decent volume and we see the leadership coming. So guys, leadership is very important. You see the Reliance, the HDFC, Twins, ICICI, these kind of stocks that can pull the market higher. You want these leadership quality stocks to perform again. So today I was seeing that ITC has also breached its 21 DMA, sorry 50 DMA. So you don't want these kind of leadership stocks to breach the key moving averages. सिर्फ निफ्टी को नहीं, वो जो क्वालिटी स्टॉक्स है, लीडरशिप स्टॉक्स है, जिसका वेटेज है, जिसके अर्निंग्स कंसिस्टेंट होते हैं, वो सारे स्टॉक जब की मूविंग एवरेजेस को फिर से रिक्लेम कर लेंगे या फिर वहां से सपोर्ट लेके रिबाउंड होना है, so that becomes very crucial. So these are the two scenarios. On the downside, you have this levels or distribution day and the 18,000, 18,100 level. On the higher side, you want 21 DMA to reclaim and move further along with the leadership doing well. Now, if we look at the sector wise, Nifty Bank, the bank is at an all-time high. So for 2 straight session, it hit a fresh high. Today there was some. Today also in morning it was holding. I think the bank Nifty was holding well in the morning session, but in the second half there was some sharp selling in the Nifty. Bank Nifty as well, which pushed the Nifty more lower. And this one is comfortably trading above its all key moving averages. 10 EMA, 21 DMA, as well as the 50 DMA. So no major issues in the charts as far as the Nifty Bank is concerned, and especially the PSU Bank pocket. That pocket is outperforming. You see the higher margins, the sustainable loan growth, the capex cycle going in India. That's helping the PSU banks. And plus जो last 1-2 साल में उनका NPA में gradually जो reduction हुआ है, और उसके बाद ये जो अभी रेट हाइक साइकिल चल रहा है, प्लस द बैलेंस शीट ऑफ दीज PSU banks, even the private, are now fueled by the retail money. So that's always a bit on the lower side, the cost of capital, and due to rate hike cycle and the linked loan, the rate hike linked loans. So these all things are helping the banks. And that's why you can see the same is getting reflected in the Nifty Bank. The PSU banks, the private banks are holding while the PSUs are outperforming. The PSU bank index has almost doubled in last 3-4 months. If we see Nifty PSU bank, the index itself, it was around 2,300 in the June, and now the index is around 4,500, 4,600. So the index itself has almost doubled. And even the stocks, the Bank of Baroda, Union, JK, a lot of stocks did really well. But yes, the larger names such as SBI, there was no major outperformance from that bank. But then also the overall the situation remains in the banking sector is quite stable. But now the focus, whenever there is a good growth story, whenever there is a good extension from the key moving averages, extended rally जब हम बात करते हैं, तब फंडामेंटल पे फोकस से ज्यादा टेक्निकल इंपॉर्टेंट हो जाता है. फंडामेंटल ग्रोथ स्टोरी आर द मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट पार्ट इन द मार्केट, वेदर इट्स बैंक, वेदर इट्स निफ्टी और व्हाटएवर सेक्टर और स्टॉक्स इट इज. बट कई बार क्या होता है कि बहुत एक्सटेंशन हो जाता है, जैसे कि पीएसयू बैंक्स में हुआ है इनफैक्ट, एंड फ्यू अदर पॉकेट्स एज वेल. व्हेन दे आर टू मच एक्सटेंडेड, देन द शिफ्ट योर फोकस शुड बी ऑन द टेक्निकल्स. क्या 21 DMA होल्ड कर रहा है, that becomes the first level. Then the second becomes the 50 DMA. Are there any signs of reversals? Okay, जैसे कि just an example, I'm not indicating this one as a reversal. This candle in Bank Nifty, यहाँ पे जैसे टॉप बना के फिर से पूरा घूम गया था, next 1 or 2 session it moved above that level, then that's fine, then that's not a problem. But if you see that it is moving down for 2-3 session, breaching key moving averages after formation of these type of reversal candle, then these are the technical signs कि हाँ अभी थोड़ा problem हो सकता है यहाँ पे. So see something like over here, यहाँ पे एक हाई बनाया था, if you can follow the annotation, हाई बना के इंट्राडे नीचे गया और gradually उसने key moving averages breach कर दी, and then the fall was sharp. So you should find out these technical indicators, क्योंकि fundamental improve होने में और deteriorate होने में दोनों में time लगता है. Overnight the fundamentals don't deteriorate, they don't improve. So that's why now the technicals becomes very important when the few sectors are extended. If you see a couple of other index, Nifty IT, there was a chance last time when we were discussing about the IT stocks, there was some momentum in the IT stock, वो ऊपर जा रहे थे 50 DMA पे reclaim कर लिया था, 200 के around oscillate हो रहा था. But recently if you see, they were not able to hold these levels, especially 200 DMA Nifty IT hold नहीं कर पाया. Over here it breached the 200 level. Intraday पे यहाँ पे 50 भी breach कर लिया था, but then there was some rebound rally over here in the IT stock. But that's what we discussed, I think, in detail, that why you should not be very aggressive when the stocks are moving from the bottom, because you don't know is this the real bottom. जब तक आपको लगता नहीं है कि 2 या 3 लार्ज कैप स्टॉक, 2-3 मिड कैप स्टॉक्स में एक अच्छा मोमेंटम है, और यू कैन से दे आर ट्रेडिंग अबाउट की मूविंग एवरेजेस, एक प्रॉपर पैटर्न बनाया है, कप विथ हैंडल से ब्रेकआउट हुआ है, डबल बॉटम से ब्रेकआउट हुआ है, टिल द टाइम यू डोंट सी द रिलेटिव स्ट्रेंथ, दैट इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. आरएस रेटिंग क्या है, रिलेटिव स्ट्रेंथ ऊपर जा रहा है, एक्यूमुलेशन रेटिंग क्या है. इफ यू सी दीज technical indicators not doing well, then it always takes time. And especially in the IT, see last year was very good for the IT sector. डिजिटलाइजेशन का पूरा वो बॉल गेम चल रहा था, 18-19% का ओवरऑल सेक्टर का ग्रोथ था, बट अभी थोड़ा मॉडरेट हो गया है, एंड नेक्स्ट ईयर इट कैन मॉडरेट अ बिट मोर. सी इंडियन आईटी mainly depends on the exports, right? The export services होती है उनका, and they are very correlated with the GDP growth of US as well as the Europe. And yesterday we saw that even the Fed is telling that growth, the GDP growth 0.4-0.5% के around ही रहेगा, 1% को क्रॉस भी नहीं कर रहा है. So whenever you see that the global growth is not doing well, so that will always impact the IT sector as a whole. Last year वो भी था कोविड के टाइम कि इनका कॉस्ट सेविंग भी बहुत सारा हो रहा था, बट नाउ द सिनेरियो हैज चेंज, ट्रैवल फिर से स्टार्ट हो गया, ऑफिस रीस्टार्ट हो गए, कॉस्ट सेविंग उतना नहीं है, प्लस एट्रिशन वाला जो पूरा एक सीन हुआ उसके बाद थोड़ा वेज एलिवेटेड लेवल पे है, एंड तो दीज ऑल इश्यूज आर देयर. तो मार्जिन पे भी थोड़ा प्रॉब्लम आ रहा है, द रेवेन्यू ग्रोथ इज ऑलवेज अ प्रॉब्लम. एंड वन थिंग यू शुड ऑलवेज रिमेंबर, आईटी को जब हम रिलेट करते हैं, इसका मेन क्लाइंट है बीएफएसआई, रिटेल, मैन्युफैक्चरिंग एंड टेलीकॉम. दीज आर द 4 पिलर्स. बीएफएसआई 30-35% कंट्रीब्यूट करता है हमारे इंडियन जो आईटी कंपनीज है उनके रेवेन्यू को, एंड रिटेल, मैन्युफैक्चरिंग, टेलीकॉम अराउंड 15% कंट्रीब्यूट करता है. So if there is some slowdown, if there is some recession, so यहाँ पे जब impact आएगा, so ultimately that will impact the IT services growth. Just 2-3 sectors we discuss more, and then we go to your questions. Let's see Nifty Auto. So it has been stagnant, guys. Even if you see in the chart, यहाँ से almost August पे जब हाई बनाया वहां से stagnant है, कोई मेजर फॉल नहीं आया है, bearing couple of weak sessions, और कोई इतना बड़ा गेन भी नहीं मिला है, मोमेंटम में नहीं है सेक्टर. सी मेनली क्या है कि ओवरऑल डिमांड सिनेरियो इज गुड, अभी फेस्टिवल का डिमांड अच्छा था, ठीक है, बट सम रूरल डिमांड इज स्टिल नॉट पिकिंग अप. जो टू व्हीलर्स का रूरल डिमांड पिकअप होना चाहिए वो अभी भी नहीं हो रहा है. नो डाउट द पीवी का सेल्स अच्छा है, ट्रैक्टर इज अ बिट डिसेंट, बट सामने क्या हो रहा है कि लास्ट couple of quarters में raw material cost were very high. So recently we saw that in last 2-3 months the raw material cost have starting to soften, but it will take time to go down to their margins. There is no sudden impact of the decreasing cost, raw material cost. So जैसे कि crude oil का prices नीचे हो गया, even the steel cost has come down. So that's a bit better scenario for the auto stocks. But the way the rally has gone, if you see from the Feb last year to almost from 9,200 to almost 13,500, 14,000 level. So abhi it is going through a phase of consolidation. You need some tailwind. अभी EV वाला बात बहुत हो गया, जो growth मोमेंटम पिकअप हो रहा था वो भी हो गया. तो अभी क्या, या तो मार्जिन एक्सपेंशन होना चाहिए, या यू नीड सम मोर रिकवरी कमिंग फ्रॉम द ग्राउंड लेवल, जो रूरल से रिकवरी आनी स्टार्ट होनी चाहिए. एंड द ग्लोबल डिमांड सिनेरियो, चाइना, यूरोप, वहां से भी एक ग्रोथ आना चाहिए. सो ऑटो एंसिलरी के लिए भी वो एक पुश होगा. So these all factors are now important as far as the auto index is concerned. But yes, currently it is consolidating, oscillating around its 50 DMA. कभी रिक्लेम हो जाता है, कभी टूट जाता है, बट कोई मेजर मूवमेंट नहीं आ रहा है अभी ऑटोज में. If we see metal, so yes, it is trading at a new high. Metals, there is a sharp recovery in the metals, and even we discussed in details in the last session as well. Mayuresh discussed it uh, in the last session. But if you see the rollback of duties, they are not much impacting. That's always positive for sector. Volume growth wise अच्छा है जो duty rollback हुआ था last month. But overall, if you see the prices of the steels are down globally. So एक जो margin वाला major advantage है वो अभी इतना मिल नहीं रहा है. So but overall, yeah, the sector is in decent shape. जो चाइना का प्रॉब्लम है अभी, लॉकडाउन वगैरह का जो डिमांड वहां से आ नहीं रही है, I think once that pacifies, so then there will be some movement in these sectors. So now let's go to your question. So our head of research, Mayuresh Joshi, as well as my colleague Rashtriya, both are here on the Zoom call. So we three will try to answer as many queries as possible till the time permits. And so if we miss something, then please email to us. We take the queries randomly. So yes, guys, the floor is open. Plus, please don't repeat your queries multiple times because the chat box becomes a junk. So we'll try to scroll it up and try to answer as many queries as possible. So just keep it once.
Thanks, Rashid, for the introduction about the macro space. And my name is Rashtriya. I'll be taking few queries. I'll start with the AU Bank. Okay, you can see the chart of AU Bank. It's a daily chart. The stock has been consolidating. You can see the stock is forming base after base. Currently, it is trading in a stage 2E base. That means the stock is not able to break out and advance from the breakout level. So it has been consolidating after forming a base after base. So clearly, there is no momentum on the higher side. Positive thing is that it is not falling also, so it has not undercut previous base low in any last 5 bases. That is the reason the base count is at still 2E. If you look at the fundamentally, it is a very strong company. The company has been reporting good set of numbers both in terms of sales and EPS front. Also, the EPS strength is at 93, indicating the same strong fundamental character of this company. Only thing that is lagging is the price strength, that is 52. That is because the stock is underperforming when compared to the general market. If you see, as mentioned previously as well, Nifty is trading near all-time highs, and Nifty Bank, Nifty PSU Bank, and Nifty Bank both are trading at near all-time highs again, but this stock is not able to make a new high, and it is moving sideways. So definitely it is a clear underperformer if you compare within the sector or within the overall market as well. So that's the reason RS is slightly lower, but other parameters are looking very good. If you see, number of funds invested in the stock has also seen improvement in the last quarter. Around 8% of new funds have taken position in this particular company. Positive sign, but But as a breakout, as a momentum strategy, we need the stock to break out and find a good momentum advancing as soon as the stock breaks out. But if you see last 4 5 times, the stock has not able to find that momentum. So that is the reason we have not uh, taken any position in this particular stock. But if you are having this stock in your portfolio, you can continue to hold it and keep a stop loss depending on the buy price, and also you can follow its key moving averages as well. If the stock closes below those levels, you can exit. Next is ICICI Bank. It's one of the leading private players in India. ICICI and HDFC are the major banks in India which have large market share. Uh, the company the stock is currently trading from it broken out from its stage 3B base pattern, but it has retraced back towards its 50 DMA after breakout. In the today's session, it has closed below that 50 DMA as well. So definitely a sign of selling happening in the stock. If you have this stock in your portfolio, you could have exited the today's closing. Uh, but talking about the company, fundamentally a very strong company. Everyone knows about it. The company has been reported good set of growth numbers. Even though the market cap is above 6 lakh crores of rupees, still the company is able to generate 20-30% growth on each quarter, which is a very phenomenal performance for any company which has that size of market cap. On the EPS front also, the company has been reporting good set of profits, 30 to 40%. Again, a very good performer. The some of the other parameters like asset quality is improving, which is also a good sign. Also, with the high interest rates, retail deposits have also increasing. This is not just for ICICI Bank. This is for most of the banks. So retail deposits are very crucial for any bank, because these are low cost funds for any bank. So if the retail deposits increases, definitely the margins for any bank will definitely increase. So as long as interest rates stay higher, definitely these retail deposits will increase, and the margins for the company will also increase. I'll take one more bank, that is S Bank, which has been in the news. It's trending also. Because most of the retailers always pick for stocks which have share price less than 20-30 rupees. But as a systematic traders, investors, we do not advise uh, picking those stocks, thinking that these are value pick stocks, but definitely these are beaten down stocks. If you look at weekly or monthly chart, you'll definitely know what happened to the bank. From 400 levels, the stock has fallen sharply, and these kind of movements after such a fall, 10 to 20%, 30% up move can happen easily, because the fall is very sharp. The recently the bank has been in the news because RBI has given a nod to the approval for the bank to raise funds. So they are trying to issue equity shares to the private players. So if the happens smoothly, definitely the bank will get new funds, and they can utilize those funds to increase their business by giving loans to customers. But if there is any hiccup in that area, definitely again the stock will come under pressure. Uh, if you see the ratings wise, EPS is very poor, is at 34, definitely, because the stock, even though the last quarters it reported good set of numbers, but the overall, if you see, the asset quality has not improved. The company is not able to recover the loans which the company has given to bad players, and the provisioning is also very high. So definitely the bank has to do a lot of things on the fundamental side to improve their loan book, and the recovery rate should also be higher. Then only the recovery will be higher, and margins will be generated by the company. Until then, it's a wait and watch game for this stock.
Thanks, Raj. I will take IRCTC. So yes, the stock has recently breached its key moving averages, 50 DMA, 200 DMA सब breach हो गया. So majorly आज का जो fall है, that is mainly due to the news that is government will be selling around 5% stake via OFS, and the floor price is set lower, 680 के around floor price set किया गया है OFS का. So that's the reason the stock price dragged today and it breached key moving average. In fact, it was moving sideways and some good setup was done over here. So it was forming some tight area, stage 2 base, base on base भी बना था यहाँ पे, 2B भी बना था, but unfortunately it was not able to move higher from there. Some growth drivers are good. I think all the business is coming back after the जो COVID वाला restrictions था. Since last few months everything has been over, and now their catering service जो उनका water का है, new trains are coming, the railway capex is increasing. जो रेलवे का पूरा इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर बढ़ाने की बात है, प्लस जो डिजिटलाइजेशन की ओर जा रहा है. So government is planning to gradually reduce the ticket counters also. So now there is a lot of rush on IRCTC platform and they are getting a good commission out of that, the fees out of that. But overall, if you see the OFS at 680, that's always negative for the market current the price. If you see on Wednesday the price was somewhere around 730 740, but वहां से जब OFS उतना नीचे आया तो उसकी वजह से आज थोड़ा ड्रैग हुआ है, and in the meantime it also breached the key moving averages 50 and 200 DMA. So once these moving averages are breached in a higher volume, you should be away from these kind of stocks according to O'Neill methodology. Give some time, let it reclaim the key moving averages. Base formation जो complete हो जाता है वहां से एक breakout होता है. So these are the times when you need to keep these stocks on top of your watch list whenever it is close to pivot and above key moving averages. But yes, once they are below the moving averages 50 and 200 DMA, booking profit or cutting losses is always the best option according to owning methodology. There are a couple of questions on OMCs. IOC is one. So it has been some good momentum for the oil marketing companies, the HPCL, BPCL, IOC. Overall, if you see, the crude price has reduced notably, 75-80 तक prices आ गए हैं अभी. And but overall prices देखो आप पेट्रोल का और डीजल का, so that has not reduced much. So the price gap जो पहले प्रॉब्लम था ये कंपनीज के लिए, if you see in the first half of this year, so उनका जो डीजल का लॉस था that was somewhere around 10-12 rupees per liter, but now with the crude price a bit lower, they are at a break even or even the positive. So जो worst था वो H1 में हो गया, and there are chances that in H2 there can be some recovery as far as the margins are concerned. Earnings बढ़ेगी, EBITDA बढ़ेगा. So market is trying to price in those things that if the crude oil price remains lower, somewhere around 80-85 zone या उसके नीचे रहता है, then that's a benefit for these OMCs, because H1 was very tough, especially जब crude oil price is 110-20 पे चला गया था. There was a limitation to hike the price of diesel and petrol. So अभी जो पेट्रोल डीजल का प्राइस है, जिस हिसाब से crude oil price गिर रहा है, we are not seeing कि वहां पे कुछ डाउनवर्ड मेजर रिवीजन हो रहा है वो प्राइसेस में, बट ओवरऑल द प्राइसेस आर बिट स्टेबल. सो अभी के लिए उनका जो पर लीटर मार्जिन्स है तो दैट हैज इम्प्रूव्ड 2-3 rupees in petrol diesel वो मिल रहा है. So this quarter can be very good for the OMCs if the ifs and buts are over here. The crude oil price lower level पे रहता है 80s में, so then the H2 can be very good for the OMCs, and that's what if you is getting reflected in the stocks of the OMCs companies. But overall still they are deep into the base. This stock is 70% to pivot. RS strength जो line है वो ऊपर जा रहा है. If you can observe over here, the RS line is improving, but the ratings are still a bit weak. 47 is not a great rating, but overall, if you see, there has been some improvement, especially in the buyer demand. So अगर आप देखेंगे तो जो ये blue candles है, so these are the volume candles. So whenever the stock went higher, especially जब ये 50 DMA से rebound हुआ, 200 DMA को reclaim किया, so volumes were very high. So that gives a bit good comfort that the 200 DMA can act as a good support as of now. On the higher side, you want these stocks to complete the base and give the breakout. But yeah, overall scenario as I discussed for the OMC is a bit decent as of now.
I'll take few queries now. Rashid, HAL, Hindustan Aeronautics. Oh, this is one of the good stock which has given good returns in the recent 1 year. You can see the stock has been in upward momentum, and you can see, if you see the stage count as well, it is currently trading broken out from its stage 5 consolidation base. So again, that shows the stock is able to advance more than 20% after breaking out from a previous base. Definitely a good positive sign. You can see the stock has been following good pattern as well. It is breaking out from a consolidation base and it is advancing 20 to 30%, and again taking some time, and it is again consolidating for a few weeks or at least a month, and again giving good sharp up of 20 to 30%. But this is a classic stock which is an upward momentum. And currently, if you see, I think the stock is might top out from here. You can see a lot of churning has happened recently as well. The stock is not moving anywhere. It has closing relatively very close to the previous day's closing. The volume action has also completely dried out last 2 weeks as well, and the stock is currently retraced back towards its 50 DMA. And if it is able to find support at this level, definitely a good sign. However, if that level is not held up and if the level is breached, we might expect some profit booking happening in the stock because it has ran up so much from recently. So we might expect some 20 to 20-30% profit booking might happen if the level is not held. If you look at the ratings wise, ratings are still very intact. EPS of 95 is a very strong rating because the company has reported good numbers in the last 4 to 5 quarters. Price strength slightly has come down, but still it is at 84, which is again considered a very good rating technically. And another major technical rating, that is A by D rating, is at highest rating of A plus, indicating a good accumulation for the stock. You can see if you look at the volume profile, lots of blue bars are above average volumes and the red bars are below average. That is a very good sign of accumulation happening in a stock. So overall, fundamentally and technically, the stock has very good set of ratings, but we might see some profit booking happening in this particular stock going forward because it has ran up so much. Especially if the 50 DM is not held, definitely we might expect another 10-20% down move going forward. If you have this position in your portfolio, you can keep a level below its 50 DMA around 2500 as a stop loss and continue to hold until that level is not broken. I'll take Tata Motors. One of the user is asking whether the stock is in ideal buy zone or not. No, it is not in a ideal buy zone. If you see, the stock is trading in a stage 2 consolidation base. It has been consolidating for the last almost a year period. It has not moving anywhere. It is moving inside a very tight range, that is 370 to 500 area. It has been trading, and all the moving averages have also converged here. You can see 50, 200, 100 DMS are very closer. This is because the stock has been moving in a close range, this will definitely will happen. Moving averages will also converge. And one of the users is asking about the stages. I think it's better to explain. I'll take HAL again because that stock has formed a lot of stage bases. Rashid, can you put HAL stock? Okay. You can see here the HAL stock. It is currently trading in a stage 5 base pattern, which I have been referring. That is how do we count stages is one of the concept in one needs to aware of. Otherwise it becomes more tedious job listening to our commentary. Stages, let's say the stock has formed a consolidation base here, and it has broken out from this level and advanced more than 20% here, and it has also not it has again formed another consolidation base pattern. Then from here to here, we change the stage count by alphabet numerically, because the change is more than 20%. And after again this consolidation, the stock has moved more than 20% again here. So from stage 4, this is stage 3, and this is stage 4, and again it has moved more than 20%, and it has consolidated for a period of one month, I think one month or more than 1 month, but and the advancement is more than 20%. So we'll change the stage count by numerically here. So that is why it is called as stage 5. And if the stock again forms a base here and it undercuts a previous base, so let's say the stock comes here and it forms another consolidation like this, and here the stock has undercut the previous base low here. So this stage count will be reset to 1, because the during this stage base pattern, the stock has undercut the previous base low. So that is the reason we again start the stage count from 1.
Rushit, can you take the IT sector? Rajki, you're done with the query. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, I am done.
Sure. Some users have asked queries on the IT sector. Rushit explained the IT sector briefly in his opening remarks. Now, two things are happening here. One, obviously, as Rushit mentioned, there was a clear outperformance. That was the best performing sector during COVID times. And since October of last year, you've seen a steady decline happen in terms of prices for the sector as a whole. You did see some amount of respite in the last couple of weeks, 3 weeks. But largely, I think a very important event is lined up tomorrow for the sector as a whole. Accenture is expected to come out with its results tomorrow. And whether it tweaks its guidance of 8 to 11% in constant currency terms for the next year, which is FY23, I think will be very, very critical and very, very crucial. If Accenture tweaks the constant currency guidance or lowers the band to a certain extent, the kind of damage that we are expecting in terms of a shallow recession, as a lot of people are calling it, or a recession as it may be, can have a definite impact in terms of order flows. And if lower and slower orders start coming through, you're also expected to see a lot more furloughs happen. Obviously, there are a lot of holidays in this quarter, but with lower orders, the utilization level on the bench strength might actually start coming down. I think it's very, very critical, both in terms of price action as well as the standard deviation multiples that these stocks have always garnered. They're still at elevated levels at this point of time. Let's take a few examples right now, right? Somebody had asked the question on Tata Elxsi as well, within the sector as well. If you've been following CanSlim, if you've been following O'Neill and MarketSmith India, you've always been harping upon the fact of stages, right? And somebody had asked a question on stages as well. Now, ideal entry point, the most ideal entry point is a stock breaking out either from a stage 1 or a stage 2. I think those are the most powerful stages of a breakout that a stock can probably exhibit for a particular stock and a particular sector as well. Stage 3 is also acceptable to a large extent in certain trending sectors, but we have a strict policy in terms of our rules of avoiding stage 4 stocks completely, right? And that is precisely what has happened with Tata Elxsi. A large part of them have probably not performed well after entering into a stage 4. A lot of stocks are still trading in their stage 4, and a lot of stocks have probably broken down from their stage 3 formation as well. If you look at Tata Elxsi, a clear case in terms of a stage 4 breakdown and trading well below its moving averages from the all-time highs of around 10, 700, 10, 800, 6,500. Is the story in terms of ITE, R&D very much on the cards? Absolutely yes. Does a slowdown probably impact a lot of the consumption and production of electric vehicles? Because a lot of investments are required by all companies, right? Whether it's JLR, Mercedes, Volkswagen, Ford, and they will need to continue their accelerated investments even through a tough period. Even if those investments slow down or get clawed back, will have an impact because investments will still keep on going into the EV portfolio, where cars are expected in FY24 first half or the second half respectively. And a definite slowdown in their original portfolio or the core portfolio will mean that margins and cash flows are going to get affected. In that scenario, I think a lot of these ER&D companies will also tend to receive orders which are probably sticky, or receivable days might actually move significantly higher. So one really needs to keep a watch out for that. Even KPIT as an example is a typical stage 4 stock at this point of time. So I think they're good stories, but let them come out, make a proper base, or let KPIT come back to a lower base because it's actually forming a stage 4. Which again is not ideal as per the only lens. So if it comes down along with the market correction, settle down and creates a base at a lower level, maybe something like that can be watched out for. A lot of stocks are showing similar kind of traction. So whether you look at a stock like a Persistent or Emphasis, you can probably see a lot of damage already happening there on these stories. Some pullbacks, yes, have been taken into account, but the kind of drawbacks is also relatively huge. LTI, Dhruv, I don't think it is in stage 4. I mean, if my memory serves me correct, can you put in LTI? LTI. And that's LTI, the first one. Correct. No, I don't think it was a stage 4. Yeah, so it was not a stage 4. But for the sector as a whole, as I said, there are a lot of headwinds which are there, right? Including what happens tomorrow in terms of Accenture, because that becomes a barometer in terms of how a lot of these IT outsourcing companies will be looked at. So follow this rules. I mean, we are obviously following these rules very, very closely. LTTS is obviously there, but it really needs to find some amount of support. And if you probably look at the pivot also, the 21-day DMA is right in the pivot zone at this point of time. With the markets, the way they are positioned at this point of time, any failure on the 21-day with an increase in distribution day patterns can actually mean that the downside risk probably opens up far higher. So I think wait and watch. Let's see what happens for the sector as a whole. We can probably take the fertilizer sector. Rushit, somebody had asked queries on the fertilizer, right? Sector as well. So for the sector as a whole, RCF, Chambal have done phenomenally well. We obviously had RCF in the watch list, but the moment of that stock on that day itself was so huge that before we could, push that note out, the stock had moved above its pivot level. We wanted to wait, but ultimately it always gapped up the next day. Unfortunately, I think if people would have got in part of our mails and so on and so forth, I think they're sitting on a reasonable amount of profit. Now, what is actually happening for these fertilizer companies is two things. One, in terms of the demand itself for Rabi or the winter crop would have been relatively higher. The second element is the kind of input cost increases that one can really think about, right? Because if you talk about fertilizer and divide that into two main aspects, urea and non-urea, which also includes DAP and NPK, a lot more in terms of input comes in from Ukraine. Now, Ukraine has actually, and Russia has actually, because of the war situation, imposed an export duty subject to a cap. So automatically, I think a lot of these prices are going to go higher. Ultimately, if you probably look at DAP and urea prices, they have come out quite significantly over the last few months. But the expectation largely is that on the international scale, because more exports will be needed, the export parity pricing will be relatively stable for these companies. Second, the subsidy payout can be relatively huge, and that is what is expected to protect both the as a safeguarding mechanism that the government might or be expected to do in the budget itself. And if you look at the farm gate input prices for a lot of these companies, they have gone down quite significantly. So to that extent, I think fertilizer stocks are in the limelight for either of these conditions or a combination of all these cumulative conditions put together. As a clear disclaimer from our side, Coromandel is something that we have said, extremely attractive portfolio at this point of time. Backward integrated company, you're looking at value-added products, the nutrient part of the business where the government is actually laying a huge amount of focus, right? You would have seen a lot of interviews on channels in terms of the nano urea, right? Very small proportion of urea which can get substituted for large quantities. Coromandel actually has a lot of play in terms of value-added products, nutrient products, so on and so forth, along with a very strong and healthy balance sheet. Obviously, RCF, as I said, and give the disclaimer as well, moved up before we could push out the note. However, I think Coromandel also looks attractively placed in terms of the entire positioning within the entire fertilizer pack at this point of time, because a lot of other stocks have probably made a good move at this point. So that's about IT, that's fertilizer. We can probably go to cement, right? And then I'll just address Santosh Kulkarni's question in terms of the budget theme for 23 as well. So cement as a pack, again, like the IT sector, strong period of underperformance. And then suddenly you probably saw some good moves happening in a few mid-cap cement companies, right? Companies like JK Lakshmi as an example. Somebody had asked that query as well. And a lot of these stocks are probably positioned quite nicely. Now, a lot of positive things are happening in terms of infrastructure development, where a lot of emphasis will be given, a lot of outlay will be given for rural urban housing, port, infrastructure development. So cement uptake might be significantly higher. Ultratech's adding almost 25 MTP of capacity. A few other companies are adding selective capacities as well. If you look at the overall cement production number, and if you probably stack it up in terms of the demand expectation, expected to grow anywhere between 8 to 10% in volume terms, you can expect cement utilization generally for the sector to move 75, around 70 to 75% from 68% as an average. Once it exceeds 70 to 73%, there is an automatic operating leverage. A lot of companies had already taken hikes because of input cost inflation. A lot of the input costs have actually gone down, whether it's coking coal, a lot of the logistic costs have gone down because of crude coming down. And a lot of captive power have started being used by a lot of these companies, which basically means that the EBITDA per ton should show signs of stability and significant improvement Q3 onwards. So one has to be a little bit more selective. I think ACC is around the pivot, if I'm not mistaken, at this point of time. If you can put ACC, JK Lakshmi has obviously moved out. You can see the chart yourself. It's actually in the ideal profit booking zone at this point of time. So we've always mentioned ride your winners. If you're holding on to JK Lakshmi and you have not booked your profits, I think the best judge for you will be your nearest moving average, right? The 21-day moving average. With if distribution days increase further, that is the best moving average to probably keep on your radar. And if the 21 gets taken out specifically in terms of profit booking on extremely heavy volumes, I think there is no harm in probably taking some money off the table as well. Yeah, so ACC is actually forming a nice cup for formation stage 1. It's actually tried doing that 3 times. So it's a stage 1C, which means that 1A, 1B, 1C. The 1A, 1B could not materialize into a 20% gain. And that's what I was precisely saying and mentioning, that there were spurts of brilliance, but then it fizzled out because of the Q2 numbers respectively. Now, for the breakout, one really needs to identify that what the pivot is. The volumes on the day of breakout should be 40% more than the average volumes, right? So the red line that you see below, whenever it breaks out in the next, say, 4 days, 5 days, if the market's hold up, the day of breakout, the volumes should be 40% or more. I think that's a clear-cut rule for a cup breakout. Because if the volumes are lesser in a cup breakout, which is less than average or around average, you can be pretty much sure that it can turn out to be a failed breakout, and probably this stock lists in our failed breakout screeners as well. Similarly, for Ambuja and Ultratech, I think they're close. Ambuja has probably moved a little bit higher, if my memory serves me correct as well. Yeah, क्यों नहीं रहा है? We will go to Ultratech in the meantime. It's okay. You got logged off, Rushit.
Yeah, can you see the screen?
Yeah. So I think today's bar, if you see the candle today, I think it's a little bit disconcerting. Close right at the bottom. If you see lower end of the candle itself, the volumes are pretty decent for Ambuja as well. So I think one must be selective here, where the EPS and RS strength is good. I think let's take a conscious decision to probably chase that. Even the RS rating is probably heading a little bit. If you can see, the nose is coming down, right, on the RS rating front. And initially, if you see around the breakout point, it had actually created a blue dot, but it could not materialize, and it moved sideways, and it's showing some downward bias as well. So identify these elements very, very carefully. And I think stocks which show good RS and EPS strength, I think only those stocks should get considered. Rushit, if you want to continue, then I can answer a few more queries looking at the chat box.
Sure, we can start. Power grid is the one. See, over here, it's moving sideways since long. After making the high somewhere over here in May 2022, it's moving sideways. There was some sharp fall over here in the September, but then it's moving sideways. It's oscillating around its 50 and 200 DMA. There is no clear strength. जो overall जो power sector का एक growth है, tailwinds है, they still remain, but I think the stocks are taking a pause. Even the other stocks in this sector, so these having some different verticals, but you can see Tata Power is moving sideways, the power grid is moving sideways. So these stocks are moving in the sideways direction. They are within the pivot itself, in the base formation itself. So let it give some time to break out from the base. थोड़ा ratings improve होना चाहिए as far as the EPS is concerned, RS is concerned. थोड़ा weak है. अगर EPS देखो 65 है, RS तो नीचे जा रहा है. It's less than 40. So you need some time for this stock to improve. And even if you see on the weekly chart, it's a gradual mover. But yeah, since May 22, it is moving a bit downwards to sideways. So it is forming some tight areas, but फिर भी वहां से कोई major breakout नहीं दे पा रहा है वो, and it is moving around 50 and 200. So you need to give some time. Honestly, if you are holding the stock, then the 50 to 200 DMAs are important to hold. You can trail a stop loss, but a fresh entry according to O'Neill methodology, you need to give some time, let it break out, and let the ratings improve. So now we take ACE. So the entire theme is working very well. As a disclaimer, this is the part of our portfolio as well. So if you can see the group rank, so out of 192 groups, so it is among the top 20. The rank is 20. So not only the action construction, but the entire group जो infra theme है इंडिया का, जो last budget में एक finance minister ने set किया था, उससे पहले भी the current government is very focused on the infrastructure theme. जो spending की बात हो रही थी, government spending होगा, private capex होगा. So these all ultimately results into a very good shape for the companies like Action Construction Equipment, which are involved in the ground level construction activities, especially through its machineries. They rent the machineries. So overall demand scenario for these companies are really good because the number of projects, the number of infra projects, अभी starting में discuss किया था वो NHI का कि the way the orders are coming out from the NHAI as well as the other government agencies as well. That has been really good. The road infra, the railways, the airports. So these kind of companies are in good shape. Plus the fundamentals are decent. The EPS of 95, price strength. यहाँ पे blue dots बने थे during the breakout, but now it is moving a bit sideways. It is taking its time to consolidate, but over here 50 DMA becomes important. जैसे मैंने फर्स्ट सेशन में डिस्कस किया था फर्स्ट पार्ट में कि in these kind of scenarios when the fundamentals are growth story tailwind अच्छा है, but फिर भी अगर मार्केट की मूविंग एवरेजेस को तोड़ देता है, डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन डे are at an elevated level, then the key moving averages becomes very important. So if the stock breaches its 50 DMA, then according to O'Neill methodology, it's good time to move out of that stock, wait for it to improve again on as far as the technicals are concerned when the market stabilizes, and then only then you again take the fresh entry.
I'll just take a question that Ankush is asking. Ankush Mundra had asked a couple of questions. Which sector is showing signs of strength? So Ankush, if you probably look at our tweet from our handle yesterday, right? In fact, Rushit and Rajshekar both have annotated that chart. So energy probably looks like a very good sector that might be an outperformance sector at this point of time. And there are a lot of constituents within the energy space itself, right? Maybe short-term moves in terms of the oil and gas space with refining margins expected to do well. A lot of the downstream companies, which are your refiners, might do well. But the core energy sector itself, right, can be something that can be watched out for in terms of a lot of sectoral churn that probably can play, and that is probably getting reflected in terms of our Pandre as well. So this is what we are talking about. Utilities still remain in the best quadrant. Can you guys see this? Can you see the annotated chart that we put out? This comes in from our Pandre, which is basically our institutional software, which talks about a lot of data points put in on all aspects, and we probably see which sectors can do very well over the next 26 weeks. If you probably look at the aspect itself, energy is expected to improve and outperform. Consumer cyclicals and transportation is looking extremely good as well. And financials have been outperforming, right? So I think selectively financials, there was a query on Federal Bank that I also saw. 139, 140 remains a very, very good pivot. Obviously, utilities have moved up significantly. There is some element of profit booking that is seen. So there is some stability in terms of earnings growth. This might also be one sector which is probably doing well. Tech, which is your IT, retail, are probably showing significant signs which are already been exhibited by the price action. Healthcare probably seems weak, but I think as an if, right, and the condition for as an if is if the markets do deteriorate quite significantly, you might have a certain element in terms of healthcare actually moving in this quadrant and then this. If there is a series of underperformance of the market and a shift towards defensives, along with some sections of consumer discretionary, which probably includes part of your FMCG stocks as well. So I think this is something that one you could look at, Ankush, in terms of the sector rotation. Now, coming to the second part of your question that you put, textiles. See, it is an interesting space. What we've been hearing, talking, reading transcripts, going through annual reports, and obviously the O'Neill methodology in terms of our ranking ratings. A few of these stocks have obviously broken down significantly. One aspect is that a lot of weddings around the corner, around 30 lakh odds, whether ready-made garments and all the associated elements with that will have a significant traction. But I think a lot of unorganized market is also there, right? It's not that all these marriages are going to get restricted to urban or semi-urban areas. A majority part of these marriages are going to happen in rural areas as well. You've seen significant move in a stock like sticking on to Vedanta, right? जिसे हम मान्यवर के नाम से जानते हैं. It has to break out, right? Out of that pivot zone, because unless it does that, we are seeing that supply always hits that stock. You see the series of blue dots which has happened, right, a few weeks ago. It never really materialized. I mean, that series of blue dots and so many stuffed and accumulated together should have given a very, very strong breakout. Unfortunately, it is not moved that way, and therefore, clean breakout is something that we might need to observe and see. Uh, Raymond obviously is one of the other companies which has done phenomenally well over the last few weeks, and it's been a non-stop gainer on that front as well. And obviously, I think the expectation for the sector as a whole, some of the orders are getting delayed, some of the orders are probably not getting accepted at major ports. Expectation of both online and retail sales in the US expected to go down significantly if the slowdown and a drawdown really happens in terms of discretionary spending. A similar case with Europe expected over the next year as well. And that might be more broad-based in terms of men, women, infant and children wear as well. A few of the stocks might react in terms of winters around the corner with more winter wear expected to come through. But a large element is that look for leadership companies within these spaces itself. So Manyavar obviously is something which can address once it breaks out or gives a clean breakout as well. But fully integrated low leverage companies like Vardhaman, KPR Mill are away from their key pivot levels. So if you can probably put that out as well, Rushit, they're completely integrated in the sense that they're not dependent significantly in terms of input costs. Cotton prices have come off. A large part of their yarn making also goes into internal consumption of making fabric. Significant fabric processing capacities for both these entities as well. KPR also has a tadka of some sugar part as well. The price strength obviously has to come through. The earning strength also has to come through. It is necessary that they take out the moving averages and create a right base on the right side. So for the sector as a whole, wait and watch, a significant improvement, but a lot of headwinds happening. You're right in pointing out Monte Carlo is the firm that I was talking about in terms of the winter part of the portfolio, which is significantly higher. In the second half, significantly bunches up higher for them. But it's really something that needs to be watched out for. With winter delayed, right, significantly. Even in the north, you're not seeing any bout of winter till now, which basically means that the entire winter season might actually be curtailed for a significant period this year, and maybe those sales can drop. So you probably need to look at all these aspects as well for a sectoral dissection and the stocks within them as well. Rushri, you want to take something?
Sure. So there are a few queries on IDFC First Bank. We'll quickly take through technicals. So it's extended from the key moving averages. Even if you see from it's almost 10% from the 50 DMA, 40% from the 200 DMA. Overall, the ratings are quite good. The price strength has increased over the last few weeks. The EPS is decent, the buyer demand as well as the group rent. So there's no issue over there. But yes, this today's action, not a very encouraging one. The volume is a bit on the higher side, and we see some candle of a reversal over here. So the important part is they should take the today's high. If they don't take, then as me and Mayuresh both have discussed, the 21 to 50 DML level becomes very important as a trailing stop loss. But yes, these banks, along with the other PSU banks, are doing really well. Some of the private, some of the PSU banks are in a very good momentum. So there are also questions from the YouTube as well. So our YouTube viewers have come up with few questions. So Dalmia Bharat. So yeah, the stock is breaking out of a stage 1 cup with a handle base. So the breakout was very clean as far as you can see. The volume was almost 150% of the average volume on the day of the breakout. And the follow through was very good. In fact, the next day, the volume was even higher and the price action was very strong. But since then, it is moving sideways. The RS was a bit weak, but over the last few sessions, it has improved, especially before the breakout. जब यहाँ पे हैंडल का पार्ट बन रहा था, वहाँ पे थोड़ा इम्प्रूवमेंट हुआ था RS का. And at the time of breakout, the RS was very good. Now it's moving a bit sideways, but needs to improve a bit. EPS is a bit weaker. for Dalmia. Overall, Mayuresh has discussed about the cement sector, so I'm not repeating it. But yeah, overall, over here, the sales growth is not that decent. The EPS is not very consistent. Though the fund holding improvement is there, some 5 to 6% improvement in number of fund holding the stock over the last quarter is a bit decent, not a problem over there.
Just a quick take on this, Rushit.
Yeah.
They've obviously acquired JP's assets, so that's a decent acquisition. But there are 2-3 lingering aspects to this, right? One, what happens in terms of the entire payout, specifically when the lenders are concerned in all this, whether it gets or not from there. There is a certain JV in a few clinkers of JP Associates plans when SAIL has a 24% stake in that. So is there a complete buyout that also happens, which means further outlay for the SAIL complete buyout as well? So there are these 2-3 nagging points. Also the capital reserves, what happens with that? How much is the reserve capacity, so on and so forth. And that is the reason that even if that acquisition was good, it has some overlaying headwinds, which becomes a little bit of an issue or a little bit of a headwind for the stock in general. Jimit was asking a question, Rushit, in terms of an IPO base. I mean, let's quickly address that as well on Tamil Mercantile. I just quickly mentioned on the chat as well that we are having a close look at Kayne's, also with an IPO base breakout. Unfortunately, Kayne's failed. Tamil Nadu Mercantile is probably hovering around that pivot zone as well, but it has very, very poor RS ratings. But Kayne's was something that we were considering for a good IPO base breakout. Unfortunately, it failed. But here you can probably see absolutely nothing is happening, right? The RS rating is absolutely poor. The volumes are significantly higher. And it's not a clean breakout. You probably need a clean breakout, which is happening. It's not a pattern that one really wants to look at in terms of that. Kayne's is something that Rushit will discuss. It was looking very, very promising. We were having a lot of discussions around this internally, and it did not work out to our extent. So, Rushit, if you want to discuss this.
Yes, I think that's a very interesting company. A lot of focus on the automobiles, the manufacturing industries. So the growth drivers was very decent looking. IPO base, the formation was very good on the opening day. It went really high, high of somewhere around 786 it made. So we always look to close in the upper half of the day's range. But agar IPO price se compare kare, then the closing was decent on the opening day itself. एंड दैट हाई ओपनिंग डे का हाई था, वहीं से बेस बनना स्टार्ट हो गया. तो जनरली आईपीओ बेस के लिए वी वांट कि फर्स्ट इनिशियल 2-3 वीक्स में ही बेस फॉर्मेशन स्टार्ट हो जाता है, बट हियर इट स्टार्टेड ऑन द फर्स्ट डे इटसेल्फ. एंड इवन व्हाट्स एनकरेजिंग वाज कि यहाँ पे जब एक्यूमुलेशन हुआ स्टार्टिंग के 3-4 दिन में, तो वॉल्यूम डिसेंट था. एंड व्हेन देयर वाज अ बिट साइडवेज मूवमेंट, थोड़ा कपल ऑफ नेगेटिव डेज यहाँ पे जब थे बीच में, तो वॉल्यूम थोड़ा वहां पे ड्रॉप हुआ. And on the breakout day, the volume was really good. This candle that I'm indicating over here, but unfortunately, वो sustain नहीं हो पा रहा था breakout. We were ready to, as Mayuresh told, a lot of discussions we did around these things, this stock, but वो breakout पे sustain नहीं हो रहा था. उसका price action उतना convincing नहीं लग रहा था, and that's what happens. The same day only it, moved lower and closing नीचे आया pivot के, so we have avoided. But yes, this is always in our list. So overall, इसका जो fundamental है, the industry outlook है, that is very good for the stock. But let's see if it can improve technicals and then again re-breakout, we might consider it. We are running out of time, but couple of quick queries. Yeah, a lot of discussion on HDFCs already. IDFC discussed. Yeah, waste cost paper is the part of our model portfolio as a disclaimer, and yes, it is trying to hold near its 50 DMA. If 50 DMA is breached, then according to O'Neill methodology, it's a good time to move out of that stock. There is question on Adani port. So it is forming a stage 1C cup with a handle base. तो पिछली बार 2 बार ऐसा हुआ है कि ब्रेकआउट होने के बाद आगे मूव नहीं किया है. So this is the C, 1ABC. So this is the third part of stage 1. And it is forming a cup with handle base. Breakout नहीं हुआ है. 916 is the breakout point. Overall RS is not that strong. जिस तरह से ये 2 बार फेल हुआ है ब्रेकआउट, उसको देख के RS रेटिंग थोड़ा स्ट्रॉन्ग होता तो यहाँ पे और कन्विंसिंग हो जाता. बट इफ यू सी दैट ओवर नेक्स्ट फ्यू डेज, इफ RS improves at the time of breakout and हाई वॉल्यूम पे अगर इसका बहुत ही ब्रेकआउट होता है, then that's a different thing. Overall fundamentals थोड़ा अर्निंग साइड पे प्रॉब्लम है इसमें. फंड होल्डिंग इज नॉट अ इश्यू ओवर हियर, बट यस द अर्निंग साइड इज प्रॉब्लम एंड द प्राइस ट्रेंड इज अ बिट ऑफ प्रॉब्लम, बट द फॉर्मेशन इज क्वाइट डिसेंट. क्योंकि अगर आप एक्शन देखें ना, तो यहाँ पे जब नीचे जा रहा था, स्पेशली ड्यूरिंग दिस टाइम व्हेन इट टेस्टेड 200 DMA, तो वहां पे ये होल्ड कर रहा था. And when the right side of the base, if you divide it into two, the left and right side, the right is before the breakout, उस पार्ट पे एक्यूमुलेशन अच्छा है. सो दिस इज समथिंग पॉजिटिव. एंड स्पेशली जब ये हैंडल बन रहा है तब वॉल्यूम थोड़ा ड्रॉप हुआ है. जितना होना चाहिए उतना नहीं हुआ है ड्रॉप. आइडियल सिचुएशन नहीं है, बट यस ओवरऑल इट्स ऑन अ रिलेटिवली लोअर वॉल्यूम. तो फॉर्मेशन अच्छा है, बट लेट्स सी ब्रेकआउट के टाइम मार्केट सिनेरियो इसका क्या होता है. बट व्हाट वी डोंट लाइक इज इसका जो फंडामेंटल प्रोफाइल है अभी उतना कन्विंसिंग नहीं है. लास्ट टॉक टुडे that we discuss is the Tata Power. We discussed that it's moving sideways. So power grid में भी वही हुआ था. मई में हाई बनाया था इसने. Here also in April it made a high of 298, and from there was a sharp fall. It breached 200 level, 200 DMA level 50, and yeah 200 भी breach हो गया था price wise. So बट अभी देखो पिछले 3-4 महीने से वहीं पे 250 के अराउंड ऑसिलेट कर रहा है. कभी रिक्लेम करता है, फिर से तोड़ देता है. तो अभी अगर देखे तो दोनों सब की मूविंग एवरेज के नीचे है 2150 200. सो नीड टू गिव सम टाइम. टेक्निकल इंप्रूवमेंट के लिए टाइम चाहिए, कोई एक बेस बनाना चाहिए. आरएस लाइन बहुत खराब है. 33 का आरएस रेटिंग इज अ वेरी वीक वन, एंड यू वांट सम इंप्रूवमेंट ओवर हियर, moving towards 50 60 70s. So that's the good relative strength, and reclaiming key moving averages as well as forming a fresh base over here. So that's what we are looking for as the Tata Power is concerned. So guys, that's it for today's session. We might have missed few queries. Generally we try to touch it through the sector discussions and all, but specific agar kuch miss ho gaya ho, then you can always email us and we will try to respond as fast as possible. So that's it for today's session. I hope it was interesting and some learning for you guys out of this session. So we discuss these things daily in the morning, but we don't take Q&A. But every day, 8:45 a.m. in the morning for 5 to 10 minutes, we discuss about the pre-bell. That's our session, 8:45 a.m. in the morning. So if possible, then do join that session. That happens every day in the morning at 8:45 a.m. And we discuss the global market setup, the Nifty setup. But yes, we don't take question answer at that point of time. So every Thursday we do this. So one Thursday it's our swing trading team, and the other Thursday the MarketSmith India teams comes. So that's it for today's session. Thank you guys. Thanks Dhruv, thanks Vinod, everyone.